Welcome back, folks. I'm Joe,
And I'm Dan.
and today we have Dan has an incredible video for us. But first, folks, please like, subscribe, share, bang that notification bell, folks. It helps us, it helps the algorithm. Also, you can find us on X, formerly known as Twitter, Instagram, Facebook. Be part of our ever-growing community and help us get that drive to 1,000 subscribers. We thank you and we appreciate your support. Now back to you, Dan.
All right, today we're going to talk about something about how Thailand, then called Siam, was never colonized. Now, in the 19th century, the 1800s, most of the world was colonized by European powers. Nearly all of Africa, minus Ethiopia and Liberia. Most of Asia, East Asia, minus Siam and Japan, and almost all the Pacific except for Tonga. But anyway, we're focusing on Siam, now Thailand, today. And before I get into it, I want to mention something. Joe, have you ever heard that people say that colonization, quote unquote, civilized a society? Have you ever heard that kind of talk before?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Have you ever also heard that someone say that a land was all peace, love, and harmony before colonizers showed up?
Yes, I've heard both ends. Some will try to justify the colony. Look, did some good come out of bad intentions in some countries? Of course. Was there countries that were peace loving before certain colonizations? Of course. Both ends of the spectrum. Absolutely.
So anyway, so the difference with Thailand was that as European powers were coming to Southeast Asia and starting to colonize. And Joe, do you know what they were using to excuse colonizing? I mean, back in the day, the conquistadors used Christianity, Catholicism. Muslims had used Islam to conquer North Africa, but you know what was used to conquer much of Africa and Asia? What was the excuse?
What was it? Religion?
No, not religion this time. In fact, this is what I have a hard time coming to terms with, but it was from Enlightenment values and scientific values. They were saying, hey, you're not as developed as us scientifically. We got to civilize you. They were saying, oh, yeah, by the way, you're not critical thinkers. You follow traditional authority too much. Oh, we've got to enlighten you. In fact, Rudyard Kipling, the guy who wrote the Jungle Book, he even had a poem called, quote unquote, White Man's Burden. Unfortunately, my values are of the Enlightenment era, but I have to accept that people who shared my values did pretty horrible things. And so anyway, but Thailand got very lucky. Do you know how they got lucky, Joe?
Go ahead. Well, share that, Dan. I have some questions, but I want you to tell the folks how I got lucky, and I'm going to ask questions. Go ahead.
Okay. All right. The king of Siam at the time, Rama V, also known as Chulalongkorn, a very revered king, by the way. He caught wind of what was going on. And so what did he do? He went to Europe for 6 months. He observed European infrastructure, technology, transportation, and electricity. He brought it all back. When he came back to Siam, he made sure that there was a railway built, that electricity was used, that there were telecommunications, to the best of their ability at the time. He also introduced public education, and Chulalongkorn, also known as Rama V, he abolished slavery. And he did this to say, see, we're a civilized society. You have no justification.
I believe this is around the 1800s, was it, when Europe's empires, crashed into Southeast Asia, when Britain took Burma, France seized Vietnam? Was this around this time period, Dan?
Yes, it was. They were gradually needling their way in, and like I said, he knew that was going to happen to Siam if he didn't do something.
So Dan, is it true? For example, I'll give you an example, Dan, that British surveyors in Burma were mocking Siam's wooden bridges. Is that true?
Never heard that before, but it wouldn't surprise me. I never heard that before.
Right. There was sometimes people, when they come to the nation, invade it and try to colonize it, there is also mocking of culture, mocking of the country's infrastructure, mocking. Now, as we talk about Thailand, Dan, what are some other interesting things we can talk about Thailand here and colonization?
Well, like I said, the fact that they were able to avoid it, they modernized, and this is interesting but not nice. You see, about 40% of its land was still lost. Now, the British and the French individually, France individually and Britain individually were tougher, were stronger than the Siamese army. And that's just a fact, because they had more weapons, they were better organized.
Right.
But still, the fact that they still got to keep sovereign, not southern, sovereign nation by giving up some parts of what is now Malaysia, what's now Myanmar, then known as Burma, and what's now known as Laos and Cambodia, but keep a country for itself. So,
well, in 1855, and is it true that the British forced Siam into the Boring Treaty? And it was unequal trade that flooded Bangkok with opium, addicting thousands. This is part of this part of this process of trying to colonize.
I did not know that, but that sounds about right. That was a strategic move. As you know, southern China, Hong Kong explicitly was lost to Britain by opium, by getting a lot of diplomats hooked on opium. So it sounds right. But another thing Chulalongkorn, also known as Rama V, did was he criminalized opium. He forbade it. He forbade it in Siam. So anyway, but here's something else. They got lucky. One would think, yeah, right, they'll give it up, they'll take 40%, but then gradually needle their way in the middle. No. Britain and France both agreed that it was good to have a buffer zone between them so they wouldn't have territorial disputes overseas, or further territorial disputes overseas, like they did, say, in Africa. And so Siam, now Thailand, got very lucky, in my opinion.
Now, Dan, as we talk about, as we go on here, like the 1860s, late 1860s, who was the king there? Was it Rama IV, I believe?
Wait, which time you're talking about?
In the 1860, probably around 1868, I'm guessing. To
1868. I believe 1868 was when Chulalongkorn Rama V took the throne.
Yeah, Rama V. I'm sorry. Rama V. I know it was 4 or 5. He saw the colonial news tightening and acted. And the king here, the reason it's interested here, Rama V, I think he obviously was a good observer because he observed really well, and he was sneaky smart. I believe, in my opinion, he outsmarted some of these powerful empires. For example, in 1897, he did a massive tour of London, Paris, Berlin, and he studied a lot of the tactics.
That's right.
And he thought he bought German rifles to arm Siam against France. So he was sneaky smart, King Rama V. Dan, would you agree?
Absolutely, in a very good way. As in, he outwitted them. He saw what they were about to do, but also his father, Rama IV, had studied a lot about Europe and European ways, and Chulalongkorn himself had a Western education growing up. So he had a good idea of the mentality, and to this very day, I'm glad that Siam is a country that's never been colonized.
Actually, on this subject, Dan, you are the expert, so I would like to see if you can answer this question. Is it true that King Rama V, number 5, did he free 1.5 million slaves by 1905? Then he taxed him to fund his reforms?
I did not. I couldn't say that. I know he abolished slavery. He was inspired by Abraham Lincoln. He held Abraham Lincoln in very high regard, and he said, "You know what? He questioned slavery in Siam, and yeah, he abolished it. The rest, I don't know."
And full disclosure to folks out here, a lot of our videos are for learning, because I'm learning too. I'm not this particular subject, I'm not an expert on, but I did some reading on it, and I was curious because I heard 2 different schools of thought with that.
Yeah, and I think sometimes it's smart to adapt. If you know that you're going to get taken over by someone very powerful, or it seems almost inevitable, that is, I think it's good to learn their tactics, their ways, and keep as much as you can.
And I find, because in the limited reading I've done, I find Rama V I find him interesting because, from what I gather, he learned the game that Europe was playing, and he sort of rewrote his own rules, and Siam stayed free by becoming a shadow of its foes. So he was, he went and did these tours, and I think he was an observer of what was going on. He watched a lot of these colonizers.
Yeah, he did. Anyway, and later on in Thai history, Siam, later Thailand, it adapted to other enemies and potential invaders, but that's for another video. Do you have anything to add to this, Joe?
No, not right now. Like I said, in this video, I'm asking you the questions because, like I said, I'm a Middle East guy and an American history guy, political guy. So I just started learning about, because I'm living in Asia, basically, learning more about it. And I know you've taken a lot of these courses, so it's interesting. And hopefully our viewers find it interesting too. Like, subscribe, share, folks. Go ahead, Dan.
Yeah, like, subscribe, share. Please follow us on Facebook or Instagram or X or all of the above. And yes, bang the notification bell and take care of yourselves, day or night, whether it's day or night, wherever you are, take care.